Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch another lovely Ozark morning. Temperatures just got a little nip in the air. I mean, it's spring, so that's expected. But over the next few days, we're supposed to be getting, high 60s and in the 70s. So you really can't complain about that. I think there's a little bit of rain in the forecast in the next few days, but mostly the weather is it's just amazing. And I don't want to talk about it too much because, how that is. You brag about something and then it turns around and does the opposite. But it has been pretty amazing. Last night, for those of you that are signed up to our locals, which if you're not familiar with what that is, it's a completely separate site. It's kind of like a YouTube where you can post videos and various types of content, but it's a completely free speech platform. It's more similar to Patreon, if you're familiar with that, where you pay a small monthly fee to get exclusive access to different types of content, but it's very free speech over there. Yeah, I don't have to censor anything that I say, no code words, no subject is off the table. And anyways, so my wife and we did a live stream last night on there. We had been doing live streams on Sunday afternoons, but we haven't been able to do live streams on Sunday afternoons for such a long time. And part of that is Sundays are always just busy for us. We should have never picked Sunday to begin with. We're just busy on Sundays. We finish up our day off, our Shabbat, and then we've just got a lot of things going on. And then, for whatever reason, Sundays always seems to be a busy day for me when it comes to taking emergency calls, 911 calls. And it's almost a guarantee anymore that I'm going to get called out. So anyways, long story short, we're going to try Thursday nights or Thursday evenings and see if that works. We may change it, but we're going to try midweek. And then my wife is going to start doing her own separate live streams just for the ladies. We can talk about women's stuff over there on that platform. So anyways, I thought I'd throw that out there. Today's video is one of those ones where I don't really have a specific topic necessarily. It's more of a feeling inside, I'm really bad about, I've always been this way, that I'll get an idea or maybe it's an emotion, whatever it is. And I have difficulty sometimes of putting that into words. And maybe that's just a guy thing. I think a lot of guys kind of deal with that. And so that's kind of this morning. I have this idea, this feeling, this wanting to say something, but I'm not quite sure what to say. So I cannot guarantee you what in the world what's gonna fall out of my mouth this morning. Mostly the idea that the thought, the feeling is that, we know things are not right? I mean, they're beyond not right. They're falling apart. And I'm not just talking about the tangible things, the economy, supply chain, just war, invasion at the border, that kind of stuff. But it's even more so than that. It's really the very moral fabric of our nation is just being ripped apart. Because of this channel and because of our local community and other things, I interact with people quite often, probably more so than I enjoy a lot of times. I'm kind of an introvert, but I interact with a lot of people, and a lot of people that are like-minded, you and I. And even in our circles, believers and traditional conservative type people, it's shocking to me in a bad way of how many people that think like you and I do, believe similar to how we do, are struggling. I don't even know how else to say it, but it's like they're battling demons, and it's almost like they're losing in a way. And maybe that's not literal. Maybe that's more figuratively, but it's what it feels like, that marriages of good people, believers, preppers, all that kind of stuff, just barely hanging on by a thread or even being pulled apart. Children that were raised in strong biblical values, that understand it. I mean, children that can quote the Bible better than I can. and just abruptly walking away from the home to go down the path of this worldliness. Men that know the right and the wrong. They know what they're supposed to do, and they've maybe previously been the strong biblical moral leaders in their homes that are just, they're up and going down this worldly wicked path. And I know you could make a pretty good argument that this has always been this way, right? But and maybe you're correct and I'm not, but to me it feels like that this is happening more, and that the attacks are more on folks like us. And maybe it's because the people of the world don't really care. People of the world, they don't really care if their children accept all this woke ideology. They don't really care if their husband's watching porn. They don't really care if they split up, because marriages are disposable. And if you can get a marriage nowadays to last more than 3 or 4 years, man, you're doing good, and you just move on to the next one. And so maybe it's because the world and the people of the world don't really care. And maybe it's because folks like you and I are the last dying breed that actually does care about this kind of stuff. But either way, I see it happening a lot. And it's sad. It's sad to watch families and people that are good people that just, I don't know, they fall into something and they get ripped apart, because that's exactly what's happening. Very often on here, maybe not every video, but very often, I talk about spiritual warfare, and I try to not be the someone that's beating you over the head with the Bible to a certain extent. But yet on the other hand, I feel I've been given a platform, and I can't deny my faith, and I can't deny what I strongly and emphatically believe to be the truth. And that is that we are in fact involved in spiritual warfare, and we always have been. But it's becoming more profound. It's becoming more real. It's becoming very much tangible, that you can feel it, you can taste it, you can see it. Our senses are picking it up. It's not just this spiritual, whimsical realm somewhere else that we only know about because we believe it's there. No, we actually can see it and hear it, and it's there. And it's because I believe personally that veil that separates us from that is becoming thinner and thinner as the world becomes more wicked, as we come closer and closer to that end. And the point is that the spiritual warfare, that battle that is ongoing, that's becoming more and more heated up, it's getting closer to us. It's getting closer to home. It's affecting us more. Folks like you and I that are very traditional, conservative, biblical, moral, all of these things that you could, trace back to saying, well, this I believe this way because it's biblical truth. It's biblically sound. This is the way the Father created us. All these things, they are very antithetical to everything that is going on in the world today. I mean, the world is it's flat out wicked. It's wickedness. It's the epitome of that. It is. I mean, even in churches nowadays, how many, and it's gotten to the point now that no one even cares. Big church leaders that you find out they're doing this or that, they believe this or that, they've compromised. They're like, oh well, here's this big popular church, leader, pastor, or whatever, and he's hanging out with the trans people and thinking they're great too. And it's just, and I know that's kind of a random example, but you know what I'm saying. And folks like you and I, we're like the minority. We're the few, right? We're the few that are standing there, that are trying to hold on to the truth. We're trying to hold on to what we know to be true. And what that means is that the attacks of darkness, the attacks of Satan, that evil and wickedness, it's being directed at us. I believe that fully. They're not trying to cause the ones that their faith isn't strong anyways to stumble and fall, because they know they've got them wrapped up. You know, Yeshua said, if you're lukewarm, I spit you out of my mouth. So the ones that are kind of lukewarm, they're even worse off than the ones that are cold. It's those ones that are fiery hot. It's the ones that have there's no question in their mind what they believe, and there's no question in their mind of you know, the foundation that they're standing on and the truth, and those are the ones that are under attack. And that's mostly you and I. I'm not trying to lift you and I up to some greatness or anything. It's just true. I know that not all of you believe this way, but a lot of you believe this way. And you know, we talk about preparedness all the time on here. I talk about it, you talk about it often. And we talk about it in a physical sense, right? And we talk about it in a psychological sense, psychological warfare, preparing our minds for the things. But the spiritual side of things, that's really where it's at. That's the core of the problem. You know, this other stuff, the psychological, the physical stuff, those are just manifestations of what's going on in the spiritual world. And it's going to get worse, folks. I don't want to sound like a doom and gloomer. That's not the intent here. It's just an absolute fact. It's going to get worse. That's biblical. That's not me being prophetic or anything. That's just me reading the Bible. That's it. You know, you can do the same thing. You should be. It's going to get worse. It's going to get harder for us. It's going to get harder to be faithful. It's going to be harder to be faithful to your wife or your husband. It's going to be harder for your children to stay in the home and to stay in the faith and to stay close to the Father. It's going to be harder for us to do that. It's going to become more and more difficult for us to shield ourselves from the wickedness of this world, because it's becoming so powerful and so dark. And that's why we have to overcome that now more than ever. It's not like it was when we were growing up, where it was pretty easy to be a Christian in America. You know, it was pretty easy to be a believer. You weren't persecuted. In fact, you were typically popular. You know, I mean, in the sense that, especially if you grew up in a smaller town, everybody went to church. Everyone read their Bible. Everyone was a Christian. I mean, they may not all lived it, but you certainly weren't persecuted because of it. Maybe you were almost persecuted if you weren't. Everything's changed now. You are the enemy. You're the enemy, not just because you like guns or you live off grid or because you don't want to vote for Biden or you don't want to have the pink hair, the blue hairs, and all that kind of zers and all that kind of stuff. You are the enemy simply because you have a solid foundation and understanding and faith in the Almighty Creator and His Son Yeshua. That right there, you know, Yeshua said that they hate Him, and because we love Him, that they'll hate us too. I know that's a really choppy paraphrasing, but you know what I mean. And so we can sit here and we can talk about all the things going on and the worry about all the things and how we're going to prepare and how bad it's going to be. And maybe a lot of it really is true. Maybe it is going to be that bad. It looks to be so. But we need to understand that all of that pales in comparison to the level of spiritual wicked and evilness, the demonic powers, the real spiritual warfare that's happening. It's going to affect us in every way possible, and that's the thing about it. It's not just that it's some, you know, a World War III happening and how that's going to affect us. This is spiritual warfare. That's everything. That's everything. There's nothing off the table. And again, folks like you and I that believe like you and I that have a solid foundation in the Scriptures, we are the ones that are in the crosshairs of the enemy. And I want to encourage you, if nothing else. I'm no great scholar in this. I want to encourage you to really take the time, even if you have to neglect other things right now. You need to take the time and draw closer to the Father. To get in your prayer closets. Knock the dust off your Bibles. I mean, there shouldn't be any on there anyways. and really devour it. You know, it says that to hide his word in your heart. And we need to do that. We need to consume it, not just read it, consume it. And we need to have a spiritual battle plan, because there is war around us. Whether you want to believe there's a physical war or a cultural war or any of those other things, I can promise, guarantee, and absolute, without a shadow of a doubt, know that we are involved in a spiritual war. And you need to get ready for that more than anything. If you're doing all the other stuff, but you're neglecting this, you've lost. You just have lost. You can disagree with me all you want. Your comments in the comment section are not going to change my opinion. I mostly just disregard them. But I'm telling you, if you do not have a strong spiritual foundation with God the Father and His Son Jesus Yeshua, you're spinning your wheels, folks, because the bad stuff's about to get a lot worse. You need to get your houses in order and prepare yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.